Can Indonesian girls speak English? That's the topic of today's video. This is what I want to discuss here with you today, because I have been receiving these kind of questions quite a few times. Obviously, that's normal because there are guys who have never been to Indonesia, have never traveled there, but they want to date girls, you know, they are interested, more and more men actually, and they want to know. And they ask me, Marcel, how is the English? How is the ability to speak in Indonesia? How is the English level? Can they speak at all? Where are the best places to find English-speaking girls? You know, which cities, what places? Should I go to the mall? Should I go to the restaurants? Or which restaurants should I go to in order to find English-speaking girls? And also, do I need to learn the local language? Yeah, do I need to learn Bahasa Indonesia? So this is what we're gonna talk about in this video here today. Good news first. Yes, Indonesian women, they do speak English. No problem, but it can get tricky. This is also one of the main challenges when dating in Indonesia, and this is what I'm telling all the time also the guys I'm consulting with. You know, I do consultations, and I always mention that because obviously communication is very important, language is very important. You want to be able to communicate, you want to be understood also and well received, and I know that very well. I've been traveling for the past 26 years around the globe as a tourist, but also in my profession as a chef. So I know how challenging that can be, especially as a manager, you know, when you have to deal and manage and lead your employees. And Indonesia in that regards, regarding the English level, is not like the Philippines, unfortunately. So if you are too lazy to accommodate this, if you just want to travel somewhere and be able to speak English right away, then you better choose the Philippines. But you also can find a lot of girls inside of Indonesia who speak English, but there are also plenty of girls who do not speak English at all, or very, very limited. As far as I know, English is being taught in Indonesian schools for many years. I believe for at least 4 or 5 years, in high school and stuff like that. And I know the school where my girlfriend is working at, it's a private school. Also there they have English classes. They offer these classes to their students, and these classes are mandatory. But I talked to the English teacher there, and he told me also, you know, the kids are a little bit lazy to learn the language, and they're not really interested. And you know, this school is located in Yogyakarta, and it's not a small city. It's in central Java, but you know, if you speak Bahasa Indonesia, the local language, all day long with your friends, with your family, and there are barely any tourists around or opportunities to speak English, then you will not speak English because you don't feel comfortable, right? And I remember when I was in school in Germany, we had English classes starting with grade 7. And so I've been taught English for 4 years until the 10th grade, but I could not really communicate in English, you know. I remember one time I was walking down the street in Berlin, and suddenly an English-speaking couple approached me and asked me whether I could tell them the direction to the nearest train station. And I remember I understood them very well, because, you know, understanding is always easier than speaking. I understood their question, but I was not able to speak in English and to really tell them where they have to go. And this is the same thing in Indonesia. So people learn English, but they don't practice it, and that's the big problem. Unlike in the Philippines, right? So also in my case, I worked in Indonesia. I'm a chef, so I worked in 4- and 5-star hotels, international hotels, and there the situation is a little bit different because most of our hotel staff, they spoke English and they needed to. This is a hiring requirement. Waitresses, front office staff, and even kitchen staff in a higher management position, they're not going to be hired if they don't have at least basic level of English for the kitchen staff. But for the waitresses and waiters and the front office staff, they need to be fluent in English. This is a job requirement. So naturally for me, it was low effort and very easy to communicate with the girls, let's say, and yeah, there was no big problem because also when I started to date then in Indonesia, all my girlfriends or acquaintances, I found them in these circles, within the hotel industry, either my direct colleagues or from other hotels. So there was no issue. So I could speak English, and therefore I also never learned Bahasa Indonesia really, because we all spoke English. We always conversed in English in the hotel, and the girls spoke English. That was good, So all my dates basically, or relationships, were with Indonesian girls who spoke English actually very well. I also shared the story with you in previous videos when I was in Hong Kong. When I stayed there for 2 years, I also had relationships with Indonesian women. There actually only one. I dated a few. I had one relationship. And these girls also spoke English. They are in Hong Kong. They need to speak English, of course. They learn it. So that was easy also. But yeah, I also met and dated girls in Indonesia who spoke barely any English. And how was that experience? Yeah, it's difficult. It's challenging, when you basically cannot really communicate. Now these days you have Google Translate. I used to use that app sometimes, but it's very time consuming. It's straining, and it's at the end very difficult. So what options do we have? You have the option to learn the local language, which I would not advise. Or the girl has the option to learn English. In my experience, you don't need to learn the local language, because I was asked this question also. No, you don't need to learn Indonesian. Because the girls who are interested to date foreigners, they will, if they are not speaking already the language, English, then they would learn it for you, because they know and they understand that these bullies, how the foreigners are called in Indonesia, that these bullies, these foreigners, they don't speak Indonesian, so I will learn English, So this is this is what the girl tells herself. So she will put in the effort to study English and to learn it, to accommodate, to adapt to you. Girls who are really interested, they will do that. Yeah. Of course, it will help if you learn a few words, just to understand when you go to the market, at least the numbers and this and how are you and I am fine. So basic small talk. There's nothing wrong when you learn the local language also a little bit. But it will then take some time, if the girl needs to start practicing and learning English from the scratch. It will take at least a few weeks or even months, until you have some conversation going. So I don't know, it's up to you what you want to do. How do you want to handle the situation? again, it's not like in the Philippines where you can strike up a conversation on every street corner. You know, this is not the case in Indonesia. You need to go to places where the probability is higher, that you run into English-speaking girls. And where would that be? Yeah, especially for the beginners, for the newbies of you guys, or only the tourists who come the first time to Indonesia. I would definitely recommend the cities like Jakarta or Bali, you know, these tourist destinations, because there the Indonesian people, especially for example in Bali, they speak English, because all these Western tourists or even Asian tourists, they need to converse in English in order to communicate there. So people in Bali speak English. That's why I recommend Bali for that reason. There are other reasons I am not recommending Bali to go when you want to date. But for this communication reason, I recommend Bali. And I also recommend Jakarta, because Jakarta is the biggest city in Indonesia. This is where the business is, the hotel industry is. There are also tourists, you know, many expats are living there. So if you want to meet English-speaking girls in Jakarta, for example, you would most likely be lucky to find them in the big shopping malls, you know, in these restaurants, and you can also find them in the banks, you know, international banks. There are many banks in Indonesia. One of my friends, she works at a Indonesian bank as a teller, and she speaks English very well, because that's a job requirement. Yeah. So of course you can also find English-speaking girls 100% in the clubs and in the bars, but I don't know if you want to really hang out in these places, you know, because in the clubs and in the bars you find more sketchy women, right? Or hotels, you know, if you happen to stay in a 4 or 5-star hotel, most likely the staff will speak English. You can strike up a conversation, you can start to approach, you can, like one of my guys I'm consulting with, he is in Miami, and he did exactly the same thing. He's traveling quite a lot, you know, and he traveled to Qatar a few months ago, and stayed in one 5-star hotel in Qatar. And there was an Indonesian lady, pretty good looking, and he approached her. Now they are a couple, you know. Very nice story, right? This is how it goes, you know. But that was outside of Indonesia, okay. And if Indonesian girls travel outside of Indonesia, of course, they need to speak English. So these girls in Jakarta, in these places, shopping malls, hotels, restaurants and stuff like that, their English is okay. I would say medium level. You can converse, no problem. You can have a conversation. If you ask me, so what is the ratio? When I go, let's say I want to approach, I'm walking outside on the road. Out of 10 girls, what is the ratio of English-speaking girls? Very hard to tell, because many Indonesian girls, they might speak English a little bit, but they're just too shy also to speak it, especially when they are walking down the road with a couple of friends, or if they are in a group. Yeah, imagine this scenario: you're walking down the street and you spot, let's say, 5 or 6 Indonesian girls, and you like one of them, and you start to approach. Nothing wrong with that, you know. You can try it out in a very decent, polite, and respectful manner, of course. But the girls will be shy to talk to you, because, you know, they also want to avoid that later her friends is making fun of her because of the pronunciation and the grammar. These girls are very shy. But yeah, nevertheless, out of 10 girls, I would say probably 50% would be able to speak English in some way, or maybe even 60%. So 40% probably have no English speaking abilities, or very, very limited. So out of 10 girls, 4 you can drop, you can take out, and then you have 6 left. And out of these 6 women, or 60%, maybe only 1 or 2 would be feeling really confident to have a conversation with you. There you go. There you see already how it is. It's more difficult than in the Philippines. Except one group of Indonesians is different. It's called the Chindos, the Chinese Indonesians. They speak way better English in general, on average, than the other ethnicities and other groups of Indonesian people, especially the young Chindos, you know, of course the teenagers and the 20-year-old ones, 30, even 40-year-old ones, they will speak a decent English in my experience. Why is that? I believe that their parents pay a great deal of attention to the fact that they speak English, you know, because these Chindos are very ambitious, you know, they go into business sooner or later anyway. They're aiming for a career, an international career, and if they're not doing this, they become businessmen or businesswomen anyway, and they know that English always advances you further. So the Chindos have a way better level on average than the rest of the Indonesian population in my experience. Yeah, again, but you don't need to worry about learning or studying Bahasa Indonesia. Don't waste your time. You don't need to do that. Girls who are interested to date, I know I repeat myself, but I want to do it anyway. Girls, Indonesian girls who are interested to date foreigners, they would learn English anyway, sooner or later. So this is what you have to know. This is what you have to understand. If this is okay for you, if this is not too big of a challenge for you, the language thing, then go to Indonesia and try it out. Yeah. But if not, if you say, no, Marcel, no, I don't want that hassle. I want to go to a Southeast Asian country and I want to be able to start conversing and communicating right away without any hassle. Yeah, then you have to go to a different country. Then you have to go to the Philippines. Then you have to go to, you can try Malaysia maybe, but it's going to be very difficult to date women there. Or you try Singapore or Hong Kong, but this is a different area and different topic, also hard to date there, especially if you have reached a certain age group already. Yeah. So, but for me overall, I must say that it was always a kind of a positive challenge for me. It was a challenge, yes, and still is today, but it's a positive challenge. Even it feels uncomfortable at times. This is just how I am. I've been traveling so many years now. And this is part of the journey, you know, that you also have challenges, that sometimes things are not easy, right? That you solve problems, that you find solutions, right? And yeah, you need patience also. Again, if you don't have patience, then don't waste your time. But in Indonesia, you need patience in order to find girls who speak a decent English. Don't expect to just come out of the airport and let's say you approach a girl and don't expect that she speaks English fluently or is happy with you to converse as if she just have waited for you to arrive in Indonesia. It's not like that. You need patience, you need time, you know, and you have to try things out. You have to find places, also the proper places, and you have to test and try. But that's part of the challenge, right? That's part of the challenge, and challenges are challenging, right? Indonesia is Indonesia. It's not called comfort zone country. Yeah, it's Indonesia. It's Southeast Asia. And traveling there should be an adventure also. And adventures come with challenges. If there are no challenges, there is no adventure. If you want to stay in your comfort zone, then you have to stay at home where everybody speaks English or your native language. Then, but you have to understand, if you come to a foreign country, people, of course, speak a foreign language, and not automatically everybody speaks English, because English is not their first language. Yeah, I'm saying this to these folks who are coming from certain English-speaking countries, because I know their mentality. They are used to travel all around the world, and everybody speaks English. Yeah, so they get this feeling of, oh, everybody must speak English, you know. But no, you go to Germany. Yeah, the younger folks, they speak English now these days, but the older folks, they still don't speak English. Yeah, so you would maybe need to study a little bit of German, right? So don't make this mistake, you know. Don't have this kind of entitlement mentality. We talked about this in other videos, that you as a native English speaker, that people need to adapt to you. No, they don't. You need to adapt to them, actually. Don't expect that everybody speaks English, you know. Even it might be feeling this way most of the times, because when you check into hotels or this and that, you speak your native English language, right? But even for me as a German, you know, and sometimes I get people make fun of my strong German accent. Yeah, you see, English is also not my mother tongue, and I have to explain it also to my girlfriend from time to time, or to some other Indonesian people I converse with, you know. They give me compliments and they say, you know, Marcel, your English is so well and so nice. And of course I like to hear that. Maybe some of you won't agree with that, you know. Yeah, it's nice to get these compliments, but I still have to remind them also that English is not my mother tongue. It took me a long time to learn, you know, and to be able to speak freely. And my native language, my mother tongue, is German. So you see. Anyway, so with that being said, I'm checking out for today. I hope I could clarify a few things here for you. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment sections as usually. Yeah, and then I don't know what to say about this topic anymore. I've mentioned everything which is important, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult, but you know, I think it's worth the effort, you know, to go to Indonesia and to start meeting these women. So with that being said, I'm checking out for today. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna see you in one of my next videos. Take care, bye bye.